Something very shocking, but also very puzzling, has happened this morning in the country called Kenya. Now, there have been widespread reports online that former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Rigathi Gachagua were coming together to bring together the House of Mumbi, the Murema, in unity to prepare for the future of the community and, of course, to prepare for the next general elections due next year, 2027. Actually, it's much sooner. It's barely 20 months away. Now, this development shook the country called Kenya. In a minute, I will explain exactly why, in case you're not sure why. Okay? It really shook the nation. But we can say in a nutshell, it is President William Samoei Ruto's worst nightmare. But there's something else very disturbing about this alleged statement issued by the former president. And it is one of the things that made me suspicious that it may not be genuine. But it touched the hearts of many Kenyans. According to this statement, Uhuru is quoted as saying he does not have long to live. But he wants to make sure, before he departs from this world, he ensures that the future, I'm paraphrasing, the future of our children is secure from the current mess that is still building up. Okay? Now, here's the very bizarre thing about this. This particular statement, very sensational, very game-changing, remained hanging there on social media, unchallenged for days. There was no response from the office of the former president. Why? Huh? Why? Don't worry, we'll come to that one. But now, this morning, the office of the fourth president of the Republic of Kenya, the former president Uhuru Kenyatta, has come out and told Kenyans to ignore that statement, that it is not true. Hey. Now, instead of saying something, I just want to ask you a question. Yeah, ujijazie. Imagine a situation where a very beautiful young girl comes out and announces to all your friends and your enemies and all the people you know, including your relatives, that the two of you are getting married. And yet, you have no idea. Of course, it is not true. It is her who has manufactured this rumor. But imagine a situation where you do not come out immediately to deny this falsehood. Instead, you remain silent. What are people going to assume when you finally come out a handful of days later and you say, no, this is not true? What is everybody going to assume? You tell me. Because you could have denied immediately, and that would have been the end of that. But you did not. You held your peace. You kept silent. Why? Folks, this is why this latest statement from the office of the fourth president, this denial of this very sensational political development in our country, is suspicious. And on my show today, I want us to look at the possible reasons why there was a delay in coming out to say, no, this is not true. Now, I'm sure, or rather I hope, that most of us understand that the character of President Uhuru Kenyatta is that he is a very level-headed guy. He especially carefully considers all the issues on the table, all the cards on the table, before making a decision, which of course is very different, very, very different from our current head of state. Actually, they're opposites. They're as different as light and day. Okay? And so, is there a possibility that Uhuru handlers considered the following. Had they responded immediately with their no, how would Murima have taken it? How would the supporters of the president have taken it? They would have assumed that Uhuru is very much against Rigathi Gachagua, can never unite with Rigathi Gachagua, is not for unity of Murima. Isn't that true? So there you have it. A very good reason for telling your handlers to Liza Boli. Yeah, let's not respond immediately. Let's wait for a few days. Okay? But now let us consider something else by diving into the dirt and mud of politics. Okay? Now, can you imagine a situation where somebody would want to use this as a bargaining chip? Okay? Maybe they're being harassed by the current government. Maybe they've been cornered somewhere. And they see this as an opportunity of getting some leverage. And therefore, they approach the other party and they say, look, you see what is on the table? What do you think? What do you think would happen if I accept what is being dangled before me? And then let us assume that the other party says, okay, give me a few days to think about this, to think about a way out of this thing. Okay? And so both parties relax. And this thing sits there on social media, unchallenged for a few more days. Or rather, in this instance, a day more. And you know, a day is a very long time in politics. And then maybe the other side came back and said, okay, fine, you can have your way. Okay? And then this other side responded, Sawa, we're going to issue a statement tomorrow early in the morning. No, I'm just imagining. I'm not saying anything. Please don't quote me. You know, this is dirty, filthy politics. Politics is brutal. It has no time for the faint-hearted. That is the reality. Still, the way many Kenyans took this development, hawakushituka. They didn't realize the significance of such a thing actually happening. And we need to understand this, that we cannot rule out something like this happening very, very soon, especially because of this latest development, this latest drama, where the story came out, stayed on social media for a few days with nobody challenging it, and then now the fourth president's office has come out and said, no, it is not true. Especially considering this drama, we cannot rule out something exactly like this happening very, very, very soon. And I would imagine it would happen chini ya maji. Because you see, there are many things a retired president cannot do. Okay? You know, a retired president is a very dangerous person. Very dangerous. By the way, Uhuru still receives intelligence reports regularly. Actually, a retired president is dangerous the way an ex-wife is dangerous. They know where all the kitchen knives are hidden. They know the combination of the safe that has the licensed firearm, and so on and so forth. Very dangerous person. You cannot just wish them away or brush them aside. No, you can't. Although, I have to admit, early on in the route of presidency, there are some people in his camp who thought it was possible to do this. Oh yes, I think it is very important to understand many things, especially when you get power. Okay? And so my point is, many Kenyans may not realize just how dangerous something like this can be if it was true. And actually, I had earlier prepared a recording waiting for confirmation before releasing it. Of course, the confirmation has come. It is not true. But I still think it is very valuable, especially for those of us who do not fully appreciate what the impact of such a move would have been. And so, why don't we go into it as I wind up so that we are all on the same page. Something has happened in Kenya politically that is the worst nightmare ever for William Samoei Ruto. I'm sure you can guess what it is. For a long time, Uhuru Kenyatta, the fourth president of Kenya, and Rigathi Gachagua, the second deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, the immediate former deputy president, impeached deputy president, have never united. In fact, despite Gachagua's best efforts of apologizing to Uhuru Kenyatta, of sending his handlers to approach Uhuru, Uhuru has consistently kept his distance. And of course, this has pleased Ruto, because those two uniting means that Ruto in the Murima region, even to get a single vote, will be very difficult. He will have to work so hard to get one vote. So how many will he get at the end of the day? When just getting one, ile kazi inahitajika, But then things have changed. Reports are emerging that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is calling for a meeting, a major meeting of the House of Mumbi on the 14th of February. Now hold on a minute. Do we remember what day 14th February will be? Do you remember what people will be celebrating on that day? Now I know many people did not realize this. It'll be Valentine's Day. Wow. So a romance lovey meeting of the House of Mumbi on Valentine's Day, which Rigathi Gachagua and his handlers have confirmed is going to attend these people. Drama bin drama, Arab drama, all a drama, zote pamoja. Let us break it down. What does it really mean? It means Uhuru has a lot of supporters. Uhuru is greatly loved right across the nation, well beyond Murima. It means that all those votes that will go where Uhuru suggests will be put in the same basket as all those votes that were going to go where Rigathi Gachagua was going to suggest. All those votes are going to be put in one basket. Now, Mount Kenya region alone, we're talking about 6 million votes. Okay? And the mountain is complicated because the votes are many, but they don't just come out ovyo. No. Let me give you a quick example. When Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was campaigning in 2017, do you remember the catchphrase? Kumira, kumira. There was a very good reason behind that. The way Uhuru handlers managed to rally Murima to turn up to vote was by scaring them. Oh yes. How did he scare them? Word on the ground was that if people did not turn up to vote in enough numbers, then a man called Raila was going to easily win that election. Word on the ground had it that if Raila won those elections, Murima, kwisha maneno. You will remember, and people are laughing at this, including myself. You will remember it was being said that if Raila won the election and became president, he would pass legislation to ensure that everybody from Murima would not be allowed to wear trousers. They would have to wear kaptula. Now, of course, that sounds very ridiculous. Yeah? In normal times, nobody would believe that. But in the heat of a general election, people believe many things. Okay? Anyway, that is how Murima was rallied to turn up in large numbers to vote, which is exactly what they did in round one. You remember that election was nullified. Okay? But in round one, they turned up in large numbers. Now, This time round, Ruto hana bahati. They're going to have a bigger motivation than the fear of a Raila presidency at that time. They're going to have a much bigger motivation. Do you know what that motivation is going to be? To remove Ruto. To ensure that there is no way, rigging or no rigging, that Ruto can regain the presidency. Are you getting the picture? The voter turnout in the next general elections from the Murima region will be mind-blowing. That one should be rather obvious. So, we are talking about 6 million votes intact. Okay? Now, when you add the votes of former President Uhuru Kenyatta from outside Murima, all those people who greatly admire him and listen to what he has to say, including yours truly. Okay? I confess. I just love Uhuru. Nampenda bure. Regulars on this channel will already have that information. So, adding all those votes that Uhuru is going to attract to his ticket, what is the conclusion? Fanya mahesabu yako and give me a total. Friends, the total is that will be the camp that will produce the next POC, President of the Republic of Kenya. In fact, they're going to do it. They're going to achieve that without breaking into a sweat. Do you now see why this meeting, this union, this coming together of the Agikuyu on Valentine's Day this year, do you see how it is the worst nightmare of State House? I'm sure you do. And that brings us to the next question. Is this meeting going to be allowed to take place without any interruption, without any disruptions, without any goons? Is it? I'm not sure. But sometimes a meeting can be so large that it is impossible to disrupt. Let me give you a quick example. In the year 1992, shortly after the country had reverted back into multi-party democracy, Kenyans were very excited. And the Forum for Restoration of Democracy in Kenya, the Ford movement, called for a major rally at Kumekucha. Now, I was there. The numbers at that rally, the people who turned up at that rally, the truth is, even if the evil Kanu government wanted to disrupt that rally, it was impossible to do so. Very impossible. Because even if somebody thought they would force things and disrupt it, the casualties on the ground as a result of that disruption would be catastrophic. Oh, yes. And so, fast forward to the present. It is possible that this House of Mumbi rally, and you can be very sure, because of the mood on the ground, many who do not belong to the House of Mumbi will attend. This rally could be so huge. And remember, former president is involved. Remember that. That's important. Why? Because whether you like it or not, a former president is not an ordinary Kenyan. Can never be an ordinary Kenyan. Even in retirement. Why? Because they know too much. They have too much information. They have enough information to ensure that such a rally goes smoothly. They have enough information to thwart any attempts, any moves to disrupt such a major, mega rally. And so, my sincere apologies to young ladies right across the country, and especially in Nairobi. Why? Because if your proposed, expected Valentine is a political animal, sioni mambo ikienda poa hiyo siku. Oh, yes. Now, when you really think about it, this very unfortunate case of the late Cyrus Njirongo and his sudden death, yeah, is actually an open and shut case. Because Njorongo himself told us that he was going to be murdered. Did he not? And not once. He told us that again and again and again and again until it got boring. He told us that very clearly. Not only that, the late Cyrus Njorongo also told us who wanted him dead. Isn't that true? So it's an open and shut case when you really think about it. However, the details are super fascinating. And that is why I'm wondering if you're yet to take full advantage of my latest offer, yeah, on a very captivating video, yeah, taken moments after the crash with the climax bus, okay, and accompanied by an ebook that details everything, gives you mpaka the timeline. This is what happened. It even reveals exactly when the man must have been abducted. Okay? So please take full advantage of this offer, because in the next couple of hours, it's coming to an end. And the latest offer of only Kenya shillings 14.99 is something you don't want to miss. You can see details on your screens right now. Please move with speed to avoid disappointment. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.